I'm Finn. I founded KnowledgeBrief late last year. So my goal with KnowledgeBrief is to basically provide a media channel that provides or breaks down the societal, economic, ethical implications of AI and other innovations. And my goal today is to try and give a general overview of AI in society and how I think things are going to maybe play out in the very near term. So 2023, as Marcus was saying, was definitely a very interesting year for AI. So just to pick on a few examples. We saw it pose questions for the creative industry. On the left here, we have a German photographer whose AI-generated image won a prize before he was found out. And on the right here, we have OpenAI's text-to-video application, Sora. We saw it pose questions for the computer software industry. This company here, they call their product the first AI software engineer. And of course, we saw deepfakes. So what's in store for 2024? So I'm going to go over some of what I believe to be the most consequential advancements in policy, sustainability, healthcare, education. But before that, I'm just going to draw the distinction between narrow AI and AGI, as I think it provides some important context. So narrow AI, often referred to as today's AI, is AI that's limited to specific tasks, and is probably the AI you'll use in the print industry. Examples are Amazon's Alexa, YouTube's recommendation algorithms, very narrow forms of drug discovery, and of course chess. Does anyone know who this is or when it was? Yes. Yeah, do you know when it was?
Deep Blue.
Yeah. So it's Garry Kasparov in 1997 being defeated by a form of narrow AI, IBM Deep Blue. And so the reason why I put that in is to kind of exacerbate the point that we have had AI around for a long time. It's really the reason why it's kind of, I think, blown up in the last couple of years and become more popular is mainly because of generative AI and the sort of mass market that it's managed to find. So then we have AGI, so AI of the future. It's often called, so a good kind of working definition for AI, AGI, is intelligence that can perform as well or better on a wide range, as well or better on than humans on a wide range of cognitive tasks, and also has some degree of self-determination. For example, if you ask an AI chatbot, who are you? It will say something like, oh, well, I'm an AI assistant. Which is kind of the equivalent of one of us saying our entire existence depends on the fact that we work in the print industry or something like that. So it's, I guess, a very narrow way of defining your kind of existence. So there are two things really to say about AGI. The first is, as you can see on the left here, you've got lots of kind of industry experts predicting when they think it will happen, whether it will be soon, not soon, whether the outcome will be good or not. So the fact is, we don't really know when it will be available. Some people argue we don't really know whether large language models can actually lead in some way to AGI. A lot of people don't think they can. And the second thing to say is a lot of the sort of scary news that you see, that's often related to AGI. And that idea has been taken very seriously. So as you can see, the Center for AI Safety here wrote the statement, mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority, alongside other societal scale risks, such as pandemics and nuclear war. And there have been lots of kind of notable signatories there. And I think one of the main kind of reasons or thinking behind that is because these models, or the model that might power an AGI model, use up so much energy, they may only be a few of these models in the world in the future, and so they could become very important kind of national assets. So yeah, it's certainly something to think about for the future. So policy. So if we start with the EU, so the EU have gone for a kind of risk-based system, so going from kind of minimal to unacceptable risks. So unacceptable risks basically means that they're banned. And this includes things like social scoring, like they have in China, biometric identification of some forms, and tools designed to cognitively manipulate. The high-risk category corresponds to critical infrastructures, so education, healthcare, transport. So infrastructures that will have, effects on our lives, they'll be regulated far more closely in the EU. So the UK have gone for a more pro-innovation first. So they're looking to regulate the use rather than the technology. Whereas with the EU, they've kind of started to regulate technologies. In the UK, they're kind of favoring innovation first, and then we'll sort of regulate it as we go. But what about generative AI and deep fakes? So we've already seen deep fakes, generative AI have effect in some elections throughout the world. So EU specifically are basically going to require companies to provide more transparency, generative AI companies, deepfake companies, more transparency. So you'll know that you're interacting with an AI. So one of the main technologies for that is watermarking. So I think that will become much more of a thing in years to come. So sustainability. So there's been a lot of talk about sustainability around AI, energy use around AI. But where does this energy use come from? It comes from data centers. So data centers that power the internet, et cetera. But interesting statistic I found on the IEA 2024 is that only 0.6% of total global greenhouse gas emissions comes from data centers. Now, when you compare that to road transport, for example, 11.9%, residential buildings at 10.9% and 7.2% for iron and steel, I think it seems as though it maybe isn't currently the biggest priority in terms of sustainability, especially when it has applications like the ocean cleanup here, using AI to monitor plastic density in the oceans. But then there is the famous Jevons paradox by this man, William Jevons, the idea that an increased efficiency of a product leads to a reduction in costs, which then potentially leads to an increase in energy usage. So, for example, like with self-driving cars, if we ever get self-driving cars, it's the barrier of entry to driving becomes lower because more people, they're easier to use, therefore people go on holiday more, people commute more with them, and more people are driving because there's a lower barrier of entry. So the actual use of energy goes up. It's, I guess, something to consider. There is also a more efficient option, an option that uses a lot less water currently, the human brain. But yeah, it sort of seems to be going out of fashion. Right. Oh, there you go. So I think with healthcare, it's important to look at the real kind of practical aspects. You can see at the top there, increased accuracy in breast cancer screening, using AI in the back office to improve efficiency, drop waiting lists, all things that are very important to us. And then there's the applications for drug discovery. Google DeepMind's AlphaFold predicted the structure of 20,000 proteins within the human body. It's kind of not really sure how useful it will be for drug discovery yet, but it's promising at least. And then I think with education, it's a similar kind of it's useful to look at the practicalities again. For teachers, drafting curriculum plans, doing administrative tasks so they can spend more time teaching and actually supporting supporting pupils. There's also companies like Synthesis here, who are kind of like AI tutors, as their tagline says, your child's superhuman tutor. And the basic kind of idea of it is that it guides kids with tailored feedback, it's infinitely patient, and they describe standard in-person tutoring as not fun and uninspiring. But are there some potential downsides to this? As we know, chatbots, generative AI, do still produce hallucinations. I guess one thing you could argue is, did your teacher at school potentially produce more hallucinations? I definitely know teachers who did. Is there a level of empathy that you need in kind of a learning relationship that a chatbot can't provide? Will it potentially stifle creativity if you're just handed, like a deluge of information on this? Does it stop people from figuring things out for themselves, something that I guess everyone here kind of grew up doing? Or is it just the same kind of moral panic as Google? Teachers thought at school, when Google first came out, it will stop students being creative, etc. But I don't think that's been the case at all. I think Google, on the whole, has been pretty important for knowledge sharing, etc. So to sum up, I think it's a fool's errand to predict the long-term future. But in the very near future, I think we'll have AI that looks a lot more like this: object detection algorithms, drug discovery, so narrow forms of AI, rather than this. Thank you very much.